guys, my name's Andrew, you're watching Talking Sleep Gaming, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the top 5 most anticipated decks going into the August 2020 format for Pioneer. So, with one of the biggest ban lists to ever hit Magic the Gathering, the entire meta for Pioneer has been completely changed forever, and with that, the top combo decks of the format that were basically controlling what was allowed to be played and what wasn't in the tournament scene. All of them have basically disappeared, with Inverter gone, with Walking Ballista gone, with Kethis the Hidden Hand gone, with Breach itself gone. You basically have a brand new meta altogether. And so what I wanted to do, while everybody's trying to figure out what the next best deck is, I want to share 5 decks that either had some success or no success at all beforehand, and might actually have a decent chance of becoming the next best deck. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So number 5, for me, I went with a deck that actually just got banned out in Standard and is seeing its way into Pioneer, and that is Wilderness Reclamation. This deck is a little different from the Standard version, where instead of trying to Expansion Explosion your opponent to death, instead you're trying to kind of grind your opponent out by using Wilderness Reclamation to double up your mana and play kind of this flashy kind of game where you have stuff like Torrential Gearhulk, Sublime Epiphany, Shark Typhoon to double up your mana, and then kind of use all of it on your end step, or you can just play like Sinister Sabotage and a bunch of different counter spells on your opponent's turn. This deck, I think, does really, really well when combos out of the format, because playing Wilderness Reclamation on turn 4 is a death sentence for that deck, because you just get it countered and then you get comboed off and you're dead. And with those combo decks out of the way, you actually have a chance against a lot of these other decks that I'm going to be talking about that are more grindy, more focused on aggro. This kind of unfair-ish strategy actually has a chance, especially when we talk about a deck that, let's be honest, could have, was above and beyond every other Standard deck. And in today's Standard, as high-powered as it is, standing above the rest like that is a good testament of its power level. And if it's shown any kind of dominance in Standard, it's definitely going to show its dominance in Pioneer. So definitely look out for it. I'm not saying any of these decks in particular are going to be the best deck in the format, but I mean, you never know. So definitely give it a try. I think Simic is probably the best way to start. I don't know if it's going to be Sultai or Teamer, but Simic so far is my favorite build, but definitely try to experiment with that. So with that being said, let's go ahead to my number 4 slot, which is a deck that saw some play beforehand, which is definitely on the fringe, which is Naya Winota. And what I really like about Naya Winota is it's one of the kind of like Wilderness Reclamation, it's unfair-ish decks trying to cheat Angrass Marauder into play with cards that individually are powerful. I mean, you've got Legion Warboss, for example, that is really good against targeted removal, which before wasn't seeing a lot of play. People weren't really too focused on targeted removal besides Dimir Inverter. Instead, they were really focused on trying to combo kill you really quick. And now, with possibly more target removal coming into to the format, something like Winota gets a lot better, because really all you need is just one token, really, and Winota on the battlefield, and you could just combo kill your opponent right then and there. And I think that is definitely going to see a lot more success now, where a combo-ish thing like that's a little slower is definitely going to be more potent and more powerful now. And with that said, definitely something you want to look into, and that's why I have it at my number 4 slot. At my number 3 slot, we are going to have Vampires. And Vampires is a synergy-based aggro deck. And with the new addition of Silvermilk Ghoul, I think it's one of the best aggro decks that's out there. It was already tier 2, tier 1 beforehand, but it just couldn't really interact well enough with the combo decks to see as much success as it should have. And though you could kind of slot this in with mono black aggro as well, I personally like Vampires a lot more because mono black aggro is kind of all glass cannon, where it doesn't have this long game like mono black does. And I respect mono black Vampires' ability to grind a lot more, because you're gonna see a lot more control, a lot more mid-range, a lot more slower games, and grindy matchups, grindy decks like Vampires is definitely going to thrive in that kind of environment. So definitely give that deck a try. One really powerful play I really like is the interaction with Silvermilk Ghoul and Sorin. And what you can do is you can have Sorin in the battlefield and a Silvermilk Ghoul. What you can do is you plus sacrifice, it'll go to the graveyard, and then you'll gain enough life so on your end step, Silvermilk Ghoul comes back to life. So you have this, every turn, a free Lightning Helix that you can do every turn, while also ticking up your Planeswalker, which I think is just incredibly powerful, and something you should definitely give a try. So with that said, that's why I have it on my number 3 slot. And oh boy, coming in at number 2 is a deck that I am super excited for. A deck that I thought fell completely off of the face of the earth, with the combo decks reigning supreme throughout the Pioneer format, and now actually has a good chance of coming back into the meta, and that is Soul Tie Dredge. Now I understand there's no Dredge cards in it, but you're playing a lot of the traditional Dredge cards. So, for example, you have stuff like Narcomoeba, you have stuff now like Silvermilk Ghoul, like we talked about earlier. But what's really cool, you play that along with Uro, which, being able to fill up your graveyard with something like Satyr Wayfinder, and being able to, on top of that, follow that up with escaping Uro and bringing your stuff back from the graveyard, is just so powerful and so unique that I think against a metagame that's going to be playing a lot of removal, a lot of wraths, a lot of targeted removal, does really, really well, and couldn't really exist beforehand because it's kind of goldfishy. You're kind of doing your own thing, trying to ignore whatever your opponent is doing, and honestly, if your opponent's comboing off, you can't really win that way if you're not fast enough. But now that the combo decks are out of the format, you can go against a lot of these decks that are playing sweepers, that are playing target removal, a lot of these decks that are trying to 1-for-1 you, and you could do that really well because you have recursion with your graveyard, and the graveyard having such a good resource, especially in 2020, is something that you really, really need to look at, and I think everyone should at least give this deck a try. But we still have one more to talk about, right? So what is my number 1 most anticipated deck going forward? And this is one of my favorite decks of all time, and that is Azorius Control. 3 Fairy may have been banned in Historic, in Brawl, in Standard, completely on Arena, but one place it's not banned is Moto. And let me tell you, 3 Fairy with 5 Fairy with Dig Through Time is a combination that I think need to be respected. I think that this control deck is so consistent and so powerful, and was so punished by the combo decks for its inability to continuously having to answer everything they do, that I think that when you look forward and look into the future of this deck, I just see success for it. And as long as Wizards continues to make the statement that we will not allow combo decks in Pioneer to completely ruin the format, we are going to see Azorius Control continue to have going to continue to have success. And I can guarantee you this. This deck, at the very least, is going to be tier 1.5. I'm not saying it's tier 1 or the best deck in the format, but it definitely deserves somewhere in that conversation. And honestly, I'm actually really excited for it. When Control's the best deck in the format, when Mid-Range is the best deck in the format, when Aggro is the best deck in the format, I think that's a healthy format, personally. I think that's a kind of format that I want to play. And with that said, that's my top 5 most anticipated decks of the format. So thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you like this video and want to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please comment, any kind of criticism or anything that you might think that would help me continue to make better videos. And yeah, with that said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Today's video was brought to you by Mana Traders. Want to keep up with the meta without spending hundreds of dollars on decks? Head on down to Mana Traders and sign up for a rental account, and if you use our affiliate link, you can support the channel as well. So thank you so much for watching the video, and thank you to manatraders.com.